Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry that we're 8 minutes late. That's my fault. I'm Grant Cohn. I'm joined with Nick Newman, Maverick Pallack, Tony Farmer, and Leo Luna. We got 7 or 8 topics to talk about today. We're going to get right the hell into them and go lightning round. Not really, but sort of. First question. Jimmie Ward is questionable to play in this game. I've been going on a pretty unprofessional rant about Jimmie Ward all week. Forget that. Is it a good thing that the $10 million a year free safety, longest tenured player on the 49ers may play? If he plays, is that a good thing this weekend? Start with Nick.
There aren't many things Jimmie Ward does well, like forcing turnovers, but he's a sound safety. He does a good job of keeping everything in front of him, and that's something that's important when you're going up against Tyler Lockett, you're going up against DK Metcalf. So considering the 49ers injuries and what they're dealing with, it's a good thing that Jimmie Ward may be able to play this game. Last year against Seattle, there were not a ton of explosive plays given up with Jimmie Ward, and we'll get into Jaquiski Tartt in a little bit. They're sound. They don't force the turnovers like we see in a small sample size of Marcel Harris or Tarvarius Moore, but it makes me feel comfortable. You know what you're getting. I think that's really what it boils down to for me, is you know what you're getting out of Jimmie Ward, whereas Tarvarius Moore and Marcel Harris have smaller sample sizes. So I'm comfortable with that.
When I think about situations like this, I like to think about what does Pete Carroll want to see? You know, would he rather see Jimmie Ward in the game or not? And I think he'd prefer him to be out just because of that experience. But to play devil's advocate a little bit, Grant isn't asking, is it better for the 49ers in this game? He's asking, is it a good thing? And long term, I think getting some more starts from some of these younger guys who are less expensive, I think you can make a good argument that long term, it'd be a good thing for the 49ers to just get another data point. You know, when you look at a guy like Tarvarius Moore, I think a lot of us are impressed with him, rightfully so. Are we sure he's not another Adrian Colbert? Are we positive? I mean, how many starts did it take for Colbert to look bad? He looked really good at first, didn't he? I think we all loved him. 7th round pick. Oh, my God, love him. So it's another data point, the more experience and the more snaps that these guys can get.
Just hopping back onto that, I think it's a great thing that Jimmie Ward is potentially going to play, or looking like he's going to play, because how many starts does Tarvarius Moore have against Russell Wilson? 0. And, yeah, he looked great last week, but that was against the Cam Newton offense with what name at wide receiver? So, going against this Seattle Seahawks team, yeah, it's a great thing. You pay Jimmie Ward, and guess what? You're not getting out of his contract this year or next year. It's just way too much dead cap for the 49ers to afford that. So, it's a good thing that Jimmie Ward's going to play.
Last year when Jaquiski Tartt was out, I believe he also missed that Week 17 game at Seattle. And Jimmie Ward kind of played a little more of that strong safety role, I remember last year when Tartt was out. And I think that would be important this week just because he might be the best, if not the second best, tackler on the team, I'd say. Him and Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw are up there. And I'd say it's important to control the middle in this game. Russ can get loose up the middle, and that could open up some big plays. Wilson's probably going to be their leading rusher on Sunday, and I think Ward is one of the few guys that can for sure bring him down when he's moving around in the backfield.
Hey, you guys have all given good answers. I've been really hard on Jimmie Ward this week, and I do think that they'd be better off without him. I don't think he's worth the money he makes, but that's a different story. I mean, are they better with Jimmie Ward? Yeah, I think they are. And I think what Jimmie Ward does, what makes him valuable, I mean, he's not a playmaker. He's not going to get you the ball. He's not a big hitter. He's not a tone setter. He's none of those things, but his versatility is valuable. And I think you see a lot on third down. He's supposed to be the free safety. You think of him playing single high, but how much does he do that? On third down, it's like he does everything but that. He lines up. He'll play split safety. He'll play in the box. He'll blitz. He'll play nickel. And I think his ability to do all of those things gives Kyle and Robert Saleh so many options, like the way they do with Fred Warner. If you put Fred Warner in coverage over a wide receiver, it's hard for the offense to know what that coverage is. It could be zone. It could be man. I mean, the Niners like that matchup. Same thing with Ward. Is it zone? Is it man? They put Ward over Cooper Kupp last year. He got the best of that matchup, and the Rams never went back to him. I think the Packers tried him once, Ward won, and he really never gets tested. People seem to respect him. And so when Kyle Shanahan talks about how much he likes Jimmie Ward, I think it's because Kyle basically has made a living exploiting safeties like Adrian Colbert and linebackers like, Chris Borland. And he looks at a guy like Jimmie Ward as a guy, well, he's basically a corner too. I can't exploit him. I'm going to leave him alone. So I think that's what it is. He's an interesting matchup guy, and he allows you to conceal your coverages, and you can do so much with him. So it doesn't hurt to have Jimmie Ward in the game. Which brings me to my next topic. It seems like Jaquiski Tartt is going to miss another game. He's doubtful. Is that a good thing, Maverick?
Well, groin injuries are tough, and I think also the way Russell Wilson and the Seahawks offense are throwing it deep, you can't have a guy that might be a little slower, a step slower in this game, because that could be the difference in it. DK Metcalf could break loose. Tyler Lockett could break loose if Tartt's not fast enough to keep up with them. And then plus they're on a short week with the Packers coming up. Packers in their own right are a little hobbled. Tartt and Aaron Jones might sit out for them, so I think it's better to focus on next week with Tartt taking on Aaron Jones out of the backfield a few times.
No, I don't think that's a good thing, just because they need Tartt for his coverage skills. Marcel Harris, like I said last week, yeah, he looks good, but that was also against the Patriots wide receivers and the Patriots tight ends. Not that Greg Olson's much better at his age, but they need him for his coverage skills. Marcel Harris, he's not quite there. I think he's a good player. I think he can create havoc against the run. But as far as a team that likes to air it out, if you will, let Russ cook, they definitely need Jaquiski Tartt back there.
I think Maverick brings up a good point about the type of injury that it is. I mean, if he were to come back and re-aggravate that groin, it makes the question really easy to answer at this point. At that point, we're all going to be killing him and saying, why did they rush him back? Why did they bring him back early when they had an adequate backup? I'm rooting for him to play. I think it'll help the Niners in this game if he plays. But I think there's a really good argument to make for letting him sit another week with that short week coming up on Thursday.
Groin injuries. Jamal Adams, look how long he's been sidelined. He's been dealing with a groin injury since week 3, somewhere in that ballpark. So there's no need to rush back Jaquiski Tartt. I would like to see him play because with Jimmie Ward and with Jaquiski Tartt, like I talked about with Ward, they don't generate a lot of turnovers, but you know what you're getting. The continuity, the chemistry between the two of them, they play with each other very well. And in a divisional matchup, you want that. You want to know what you're getting out of your defenders and not have wild cards like Tarvarius Moore, Marcel Harris in there where things can go either way. If this was another week where you're playing a team like the Patriots, I'm fine with giving these young guys all the developmental snaps that they need. But when it's a division opponent where there's this much at stake that can really alter which direction the season is going in, you want to have your starters in there that you've invested in. So it would not be a bad thing if Jimmie Ward and Jaquiski Tartt both play this game, but you got to look at the bright side if they don't go with the high ceilings of Tarvarius Moore, Marcel Harris. So the 49ers are kind of in a win-win situation because seeing what Moore and Harris can bring to the table really can decide what you do with the starting safeties moving forward.
I'm just going to say I'm going to say it flat out. The Niners are better without Jaquiski Tartt. Maybe not last year, but this year they are. He's fine. He's a fine player. He makes more than he deserves, but they don't do much with him. I just got through on like a 2.5-minute spiel about all the things the Niners do with Jimmie Ward. What they do with Jaquiski Tartt is on third down, they plug him in center field, and they never blitz him, and he never is in a position to do anything. He's not a big, strong hitter. He gets hurt. I mean, he's not a bad hitter. He's not Dante Whitner. He's not even Marcel Harris. I like the way Marcel Harris hits, by the way. That guy throws his body around. But to me, the future at safety is Jimmie Ward and Tarvarius Moore. Now we get to see it. I want to see what those two look like playing together. I want to know if they can do it. I want to know if they can both play strong safety, both play free. I think that would be a nice tandem. And I think the future's now. Go for it. I really think Tarvarius Moore is a step up better than Jaquiski Tartt.
And that's the one thing. Watching Tarvarius Moore against the Patriots, I thought he was limited to kind of playing that single high safety role because he's built rather thin. He's a tall, lean guy. He was lining up in the box and making plays around the line of scrimmage, so he can see that in the box safety. So I'm high on Tarvarius Moore. I'm happy. And
if you're going to use Jimmie Ward like around the box on third down as this movable chess piece who could blitz, who could cover, and you want someone just to stick in center field, well, I'd rather put Moore out there than Tartt. I mean, he covers more ground. Tartt's more of a strong safety anyway.
Yep.
So that's all I got. Okay, moving on to other vets that are controversial who may come back this week. Quan Alexander. Is it a good thing if he plays in this game?
It's The phrasing good or bad, I'm not necessarily a fan of. I prefer Dre Greenlaw to play in this game. I want him to start. But again, anytime you can have a chance to get healthy with the way that the 49ers players been dropping like flies, if you have the opportunity to suit up, go ahead and do that, because you don't know. One snap, one of the linebackers can get hurt. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but Dre Greenlaw deserves to start this game. He should play alongside of Fred Warner. He had two of the biggest plays of the year last year in overtime, although it didn't amount to much when he picked off Russell Wilson in the red zone. Then you have the stop in Seattle. So Dre Greenlaw should just take Quan Alexander's starting spot. And of course, the roster politics behind it, with Quan Alexander making significantly more money than Greenlaw, is the reason why that hasn't occurred yet. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but if it impacts Greenlaw starting this game, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, listen, I want to like Quan Alexander. I love what he does in the locker room. I think he's an awesome person. He gets the team hyped up. I think that's great. His heart coming back to this play in the Super Bowl after that injury, way ahead of schedule. Love everything about Quan. On the field, I'm really down on Quan. I mean, the missed tackles, the bad angles. He seems stiff to me. He just plays like very upright, and guys just get out of his grasp so easily. And when they first signed him, there was a narrative out there that, yeah, he misses a lot of tackles, but he's so fast that he gets to those ball carriers quicker, and he, disrupts the play. And I was on board with that for a while, but the more I watch it, I see what the frustrated Buccaneers fans saw toward the end of his tenure there. And he frustrates me at times watching the games.
Yeah, I think you said that perfectly. You took the words out of my mouth, basically. I have a signed Quan Alexander jersey that I'm trying to give away, and it seems like no one really wants it. And I know you want. That just speaks on what we see based on our televisions or what you see from the press box. It's, he could go sideline to sideline, but are you doing it efficiently? No, it's not happening, and you'd rather go with a safer guy like Dre Greenlaw. And something I ask myself constantly, that play in Seattle, the Greenlaw stop, does Quan Alexander do that? I don't think he does. I don't think he does. Honestly, I don't think he does. And that's why I like having Greenlaw out there so much more. And it just shows, build for your future. Quan, you're probably cutting him after this year. He just doesn't fit the cap. So if you're cutting him after the season, don't look at his salary, start the better player, and invest in your future.
Maverick.
I know a lot of people hate Quan just because of the money, but I think he has the potential to remain a top 4 linebacker on this team. I'm not saying he's top 2. I think definitely Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner are the 2 guys. And then in the 3 linebacker scenarios, I like Azeez Al-Shaair for now. But you need that 4th linebacker.
Yes, you do.
If someone gets hurt, they're one snap away from Demetrius Flanagan fouls or Joe Walker being out there, who are both, I think, preferred special teams guys, going more safeties at linebacker. I think Quan, if he's able to go, I think he'll be active, but it'll be a pitch count scenario. And then if there's an injury, he gets on the field. But I think he will, when he's fully healthy, he will be one of those 3 guys. But for now, he's the 4th guy.
That's a great answer. I like that answer. To me, Quan Alexander is the best. He's the best 4th linebacker in the league by far. There's no question about it. But I prefer Azeez Al-Shaair. I gotta say, I thought he looked like another one of these young, athletic, undrafted guys that the Niners have developed. I mean, they just do not miss with these guys. And now he's in his 2nd year. Usually the undrafted guys, not the running backs, but everyone else, they need a year. He's in his 2nd year. He looks good. I would stick with Azeez Al-Shaair, Dre Greenlaw, and Fred Warner. And my issue with Quan Alexander is I feel like this is the kind of game he could lose for you, because Russell Wilson doesn't scramble around a lot, but when he does, it's going to be Quan Alexander's fault that he's running around down the field. It's going to be Quan's fault. That's what he does. It's like he has a feeling, oh, wait, he was wrong. That's your guy. So I just feel like against the Seahawks, where everyone's been working so hard to contain quarterback. I mean, look at Eric Armstead. He really has been doing a great job the last few weeks after I got on him. He needed to hear it, but he heard it. He's been containing quarterbacks. God knows if Quan did. I haven't been able to have the same effect and impact on Quan. He's kind of in his own world. I don't think he checks Twitter, or maybe he does. I don't know. All right, let's keep moving on. Tevin Coleman is on IR, but it's starting to sound like he might play in this game, which could be a good thing because Jeff Wilson Jr. won't play, Raheem Mostert won't play, and Jerick McKinnon has tired legs, whatever the hell that means. It could also be a bad thing because he's Tevin Coleman. So, guys, is it a good thing? Is it a benefit that Tevin Coleman is coming back for this game? We'll start with Maverick.
Well, I'm guessing right now it seems like Jamal Adams probably won't play, but if he does play, I think you definitely need Tevin Coleman because I think he's the best pass blocker of the three active running backs. But in the event that Jamal Adams doesn't play, I think you have to go Hasty as that lead guy. But I think you need Coleman. You need that between the tackles guy to spell JaMychal Hasty because I don't know if you want a 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2 scenario where it's Jerick McKinnon needing that after that failed 4th down against the Dolphins. I think you need Coleman, who's a more traditional in between the tackle guy, to pair with Hasty.
Yeah.
Like what Mav said there is Coleman's by far the better pass blocker, and that's Seattle's main weakness. So giving Jimmy Garoppolo that extra time to complete these passes, like I said, 10-yard sweet spot is between the 10 to 15 yards in the middle of the field with Kittle and Bourne. That's going to be their bread and butter this game, and having Tevin Coleman there is going to allow that ability to keep that pressure off of Jimmy, as well as I look at last year, Tevin Coleman starting the game and then let Mostert come in with fresh legs work so well. Maybe not to the Super Bowl's extent to where you keep Mostert on the sideline till the second quarter, but having them at least on the first drive, second drive, midway second drive, tire out that defense a bit, and now you have a more fluid back with Hasty. What I love about Hasty is I look at it like basketball. With his basketball, you have your step back, shoot the three, you create like 10 feet of distance, and that's what his jump cuts remind me of. Yes. It's kind of like a step back, and then now that I saw Stephon Gilmore last week, he thought he had him, and then little jump cut, he was like, he's over there now. And I think having Tevin Coleman in there just bruising up that defense is going to allow that to happen.
Yeah, I don't think any of us want to see Tevin Coleman get 12 to 15 carries in this game and be the 49ers lead back, but for depth purposes, yeah. I mean, Mostert's out, obviously. Wilson's out. McKinnon's not 100%. Just for another capable body, yeah. But, yeah, I hope he doesn't lead the team in carries.
I'm on board with all of you guys. It's not a bad thing to have Tevin Coleman in uniform considering the injuries at the running back position. He's a guy that can carry the load. We've seen him carry the ball 20 times last year. That should not be the game plan this game. But it's nice to have that veteran running back to join JaMychal Hasty, who without a doubt should have a bigger role against the Seahawks. And Tevin Coleman, he's had moments where he's looked really good running the football, like the NFC divisional game against the Vikings. He has his moments. He has it in him. We've seen very strong performances from Tevin Coleman. Now, whether or not those days are behind him or not, who knows? But he can be a running back that can carry the load. And when you just lost Raheem Mostert to injured reserve, you lost Jeff Wilson Jr. to injured reserve. Don't get me wrong. I was an advocate that this team should trade Tevin Coleman before the season even started. Yet here you are, happy that you held on to him because your running backs, along with every other position, your players are dropping like flies. So all of a sudden, here comes Tevin Coleman ready to step in and potentially be a factor in a divisional game that can carry a lot of weight down the road. So Tevin Coleman spelling JaMychal Hasty. And I saw Jack Hammer posted that he tweeted earlier that Coleman will get the start. If he's healthy, I 100% agree with that. Just that's how Shanahan works. So I wouldn't mind seeing 8-9 carries from Coleman, similar to what we saw from him last year. Because I see Grant making faces. This is my argument, Grant.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just seeing at the idea of what Tevin Coleman.
The worst
you're
thing
right.
No, but listen to this. Here's my reasoning behind it. The worst thing the 49ers could do to themselves this game is having the mentality that they're going to attack the Seattle secondary. It's their weak link, yes. But when you throw the ball, you're picking up chunk yardage. You're not going to win the time of possession battle that way. You need to have long, sustained drives on the ground. So I think the 49ers should run the ball 28, 30 times this game. And where are those carries going to come from? JaMychal Hasty and Tevin Coleman. So that's why I say Tevin Coleman should be in that 8-9 range, because you don't want JaMychal Hasty to get around 20 carries in his own right. You got to run the football. Don't be tempted to just throw the ball against this Seattle pedestrian secondary.
Nice
I'm gonna
rant.
disagree with all four of you guys. I was gonna say that it was a good thing, but after hearing like the last 3-4 minutes of praise for Tevin Coleman, forget that. Forget that.
It's
I'm
not
pushing back.
praise.
I'm
It's
pushing
not
back right
praise.
now. No. Nick, you had your chance. Don't make me mute you. I'll do it. I'll freaking do it. All right, no, okay, hold on real quick. The dude is averaging 1.7 yards per carry. I don't care what his style of running is or what he could do or what kind of depth or how he can – no. If you need a guy to go between the tackles, if you need someone to protect the pocket and blitz, give the ball to Kyle Juszczyk. He ain't averaging 1.7 yards per carry. Tevin Coleman, have a nice seat on the bench. If we need you, we'll call you. Don't call us. We'll call you. JaMychal Hasty needs to get 15 touches in this game. If he gets fewer touches than Tevin Coleman and the Niners lose, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to have a fit. I'm just going to be really upset. I'm probably going to pull a Jed York at halftime. My own house. I'm going to leave at halftime. What?
Kyle Juszczyk set a career high in rushing attempts last week with 4. He's not a guy that's going to realistically get a lot of carries. I don't know.
All he needs to do is average 2 yards a carry, and he's better than Tevin Coleman. So I don't know. No, okay, look.
Hey.
Tevin Coleman, if he starts, fine. If he gets 8 carries, fine. As long as the Niners win and Hasty gets more, I'm not complaining. But if Coleman gets too many carries and they lose, then I'm firing Kyle Shanahan. I have that power. He's fired. Kyle, don't mess around. Use him if you need to. Give JaMychal Hasty a breather, but don't mess this up. Because I feel like you're going against the worst defense in the league. As long as you give the ball to your 4 best players, you got it made. Juszczyk, Hasty, Kittle, Ayuk. Don't mess it up. But this is going to be the game where Tevin Coleman runs for 200 yards and 5 touchdowns, and I'm going to have to erase this video from the web. Hey, that's the way it goes. All right. Speaking of Juszczyk, he got involved in the game last week. It seemed like it was a factor, or maybe it wasn't. Is it important for the Niners to get Kyle Juszczyk 4 or 5 touches a game, or is that overrated?
Yes, because even though he's the league's most expensive fullback and he has the reputation of being a chess piece that lines up all over the field, it still seems like opposing defenses forget about him. Mm-hmm. So why not continue to keep him involved and target him 4 or 5 times? Good things happen when Kyle Juszczyk gets targeted. He had that one drop against the Patriots, and outside of that, I have a tough time remembering when else he's dropped a pass. He's fairly sure-handed. He can make acrobatic catches. We've seen it time and time again, like the Patriots game, the Steelers game last year, and that acrobatic catch he had against the Texans in 2017, one of Garoppolo's first couple starts. Juszczyk's a playmaker. So, yes, when you're down guys like Raheem Mostert and Deebo Samuel, get your playmakers involved. Juszczyk's another one of them. So I like giving him 4 or 5 what's the word I'm looking for?
Touches.
Yeah, touches. There you
touches.
go. Thank you. Touches. Right. 4 or 5 touches per game. I like that.
Tony, what do you think?
Nick mentioned him catching opposing defenses off guard, and sometimes as a fan, he catches me off guard too. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen the jersey number yet. I'll see a white guy sprawl out for a catch, and I'll say, who made that catch? Oh, it was Juszczyk. Oh, yeah, we have Juszczyk,
Doesn't look like Kittle. Yeah.
You kind of forget about him for a second, But I might argue that is the reason why he's effective, because they're not overusing him. Kyle Juszczyk is like Kyle Shanahan having a baseball analogy. Kyle Shanahan having a changeup as an out pitch. It's effective because he's not throwing it every time. And I think if you start to give Juszczyk too many carries and expose him, they're going to start game planning for him, and he's not going to be able to use him, on a 3rd and 19 diving catch sort of scenario, because the element of surprise is going to be gone. That being said, I think if the point is here where they're starting to use him too much, he's going to change their game plan. I still don't think they're near that yet. I think there's a little more room where they can start using him a little more, but let's not overdo it.
That was a mature answer. I like that answer. Leo.
It was
good. Yeah.
Real quick, someone in the comments asked if we read the comments, and yeah, we do, and they're pretty hilarious.
Yeah, they do.
I just wanted to give you a shout out on that. But I think they should in the passing game, not necessarily in the running game. The running game, he doesn't really do much for me. It's going to have to be in between the tackles, maybe 4 yards, 5 yards at most. Right. But in the passing game, I think they absolutely should, because kind of what Tony touched on, who the hell game plans for a fullback? Nobody. There's only like 5 of them in the NFL right now. And they're not going to do it because you have Kittle that you got a game plan for. You got Ayuk. Even Kendrick Bourne, they might say, hey, this guy runs 15-yard in like 20 times a game. Keep your eyes out on that. even Hasty, even Mostert when he's back, even Debo when he's back. So they have so many guys you already got a game plan for already. Jordan Reed when he's back. So nobody is going to game plan for Juszczyk in the near future. I think he should probably get about 3 to 4 targets per game. Why not? You paid him that money.
I think Juszczyk's, in my opinion, he might actually be the second best pass catcher on the team. I'd like to see a little more of Ayuk before I cement that as an answer, but I think it goes Kittle, Juszczyk, and then Ayuk. I'm a big Juszczyk fan, but going off of Tony talking about baseball analogies, like it honestly, it's like when you have a top reliever and he's great in that 1 inning role, but then teams get fancy and make him a starter, and then it ruins it. You got to keep him in that limited role, and I'm not saying 1 touch a game, but like everyone was saying, 4 to 5, use them in third down situations. You got to get your best pass catcher on the field. And that might mean playing just 1 wide receiver on third downs, and that's a little untraditional. But if he's your best pass catcher, second best guy, you got to give him on big plays. Third downs are important, especially in this game where you got to control tempo. And so Juszczyk, I think, needs to at least be on the field for most third downs. Maybe not get the touches, but on the field.
I totally agree. He needs to play more. I think he's one of your better route runners, one of your better pass catchers. I mean, that diving catch he made, that's a big-time catch from any player, a wide receiver. I mean, if Dante Pettis would lay out and catch a ball like that, he'd be playing. That was a big-time catch. He can run all kind of routes. He can run deep routes. He can run choice routes. He can run slants, outs. He could be used more as a receiver. And 2 targets is okay. I'd like 3. I'd like 4. And 4 carries I think is cool. Like, of course, he's not going to line up at tailback and run outside zone, but the fullback trap is a hell of a play. I mean, Bill Walsh called it all the time for Tom Rathman. I think Juszczyk runs it well. And when you're at 2nd and 1, 3rd and 1, goal line, call it. I mean, they scored a touchdown with that play. They got 3 first downs with that play last week. All these things need to be incorporated more. And I asked Juszczyk today, like, what it means for him to be involved. And he was like, it helps me. I don't want to just be a blocker. I'm a good blocker, but I like being involved and it energizes me. And that reminded, you guys keep going to baseball analogies. I'm thinking basketball. He's like the center. He does all the dirty work. He runs the floor. He sets the screens. He boxes out. He rebounds. And for you to expect him to work that hard and get no glory, you've got to give him some touches. Get him involved early. Make him feel like he's a part of the offense, or else you're kind of just taking him for granted and giving everyone else glamour and glory while he works his butt off for nothing. So you could see it in his face, like, yeah, I love the touches. It makes me feel more energized when I go to block. And if you noticed, Juszczyk had one of his best blocking games, like ever. He was fantastic. So that's all I'm saying. Like, make him feel appreciated. And you can give him those targets early. That's what coaches do in basketball a lot. Give your center 2 touches early. Give him a layup. And now you don't have to worry about him the rest of the game. You don't have to call plays from the rest of the game. He's into it. That's all I'll say.
I like that.
All right. Let's go to okay. This is interesting. The last time the Niners played in New England and then played in Seattle the next week was 2012 when they were a Super Bowl team. That was one of their best teams we've ever seen. They went to New England and won. It was very impressive. They were going against Tom freaking Brady. They won. The next week they go to Seattle. Everyone expected them to win that game. I expect them to win that game. They got blown out 42-13. And it wasn't because Seattle was that much better than them. Seattle didn't go to the Super Bowl that year. The Niners did. It was jet lag and exhaustion. It's just really tiring. If you've made that trip from Boston to the Bay, you know it's hard. So my question is, how big of a factor do you think fatigue will be in this game? And what will be the difference?
I think one thing on the 2012 team, that Seattle team was at the time underrated, honestly. It was before Russell Wilson had the big contract, so they were a much deeper team. But with this Seattle team, I think you have to control the ball, and that will be a way to get rid of the jet lag factor in a way. Is if you're controlling the speed of the game, if you're still tired when you're controlling the speed, that there's another problem wrong than if you're controlling the tempo. The Seahawks are going to score quick plays. I think that's the way they're going to get all their scores. The 49ers need to run the ball, slow it down, get their defense a lot of rest, and I think their offense should be able to handle long, sustained drives. As long as the defense gets a little time, they should be fine.
So the main difference, the elephant in the room is that 2012 Seattle's defense was outstanding compared to the 2020 Seattle. I think
Correct.
I saw a stat to where they're only like less than 200 yards already given up their 49ers are going to have this Seattle's defense 2020 give up more passing yards on the season than that 2012 defense. So that's kind of the elephant in the room there. And then that game in New England, it was a Sunday night matchup. And I think that Seattle game, was that another primetime game as well?
It might have been. It might have been. Yes, it might have been. It was 8 years ago, but I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, so I think as far as like the travel-wise, that's what, three and a half less hours to fly back home. So by then, the 49ers already kicked off the ball in 2012, and then in 2020, they're already on the charter flight back home. So you do have that little bit of extra time. Seattle, they just got done playing overtime in Arizona. 49ers already landed in San Francisco before they even got on the flight in Arizona. So I think it's just so many different factors. I do see where you're saying on this question because, yeah, anybody's going to be jet lagged. That's obvious. But I think they understand the task at hand from texting one of the players. I told him, hey, great job against New England. He told me back, oh, thanks, but we have a big matchup this week. I was like, okay, I'll go let you do your thing. Sure. And so I think they're just goal-minded right now, and to where it's a completely different level where that 2012 Seahawks team was coming up. They may have been overlooked rather than this 2020 Seahawks team. They're not being overlooked. Right now they're 5-1, number one in first place.
I wonder which player you texted. Okay,
I'm sure you could guess it. Not Cohn.
I think it's going to be a factor. I mean, if I'm handicapping this game, that's like a half-point difference, so it's a factor. But consider how fresh Seattle's going to be. It was just mentioned, they're coming off of a grueling game against the Cardinals. And I posted something to Twitter here. The Niners' leading players on defense who had the most snaps last week were Tavarius Moore and Marcel Harris. They had 52 snaps each. They're fresh because they just got in there, right? Nobody else on the Niners' defense had more than 41 snaps, okay? Seattle, on the other hand, had 6 defensive players with 73 snaps. And so
check out the stats on Tony.
I think there's a chance that Seattle might, coming off that really emotional win. I mean, when that game went into overtime, I said right in that moment during the coin toss, I said, I hope this goes the whole 10 minutes. And I hope Seattle uses up all their steam in this game. And that was a demoralizing defeat, an extra 10 minutes of football, extra snaps. And so I think it's going to kind of balance out. Yeah, the Niners have the tougher travel schedule, but Seattle played more snaps. I will say this, though. Seattle did have their bye right before that grueling week. And so it's a factor, but I'm not too concerned about it.
It's a factor, but it's a factor going up against both teams. Just like Tony just touched on, he did an excellent job breaking down the snaps and everything. I'm in agreement. I don't think that fatigue will be the deciding factor in the game. It was such a long game last Sunday night for the Seahawks and the Cardinals, went right down to the wire. That hurts. That hurts them. And then they have to bounce back and play a division opponent. That's going to be tough. And it's a cop-out, in my opinion, to blame this game if it's a loss on being tired. It's a football season. You play. It is. You got to be ready to go. In every profession, not just playing football, you have to show up to work ready to go and execute what you've been working on. So I don't like the whole they're tired. Going back to 2012, when they played the Patriots and the Seahawks back-to-back, that was like 2000. That was week 15 and week 16, if I remember correctly.
That's true.
This is week 8. The season's still a baby right now. Come on, you're not Jerick McKinnon with the tired legs or whatever. Come on, unless you're Jerick McKinnon with those ACL injuries, you have no excuse with your tired legs. It's go time. This is a divisional matchup. You need to be ready to go. No fatigue, no excuses.
Nick is fired up. I like
Let's
that
go.
answer. Dude, it's going to be a major factor in this game. It's going to be a major factor. You're going to see it early. But the point that you guys have made is that I think it's a factor for the Seahawks too. I think it's going to be a factor for both teams. The Niners, I mean, the travel is what is going to drain them. And for the Seahawks, the game that they played last week was draining. Now, the Seahawks, both teams are up for this. The Seahawks don't lose 2 games in a row. I think they're like 31-8 after a loss with Russell Wilson. So this is going to be a tough game. But as you guys have pointed out, they had to work so hard just to lose last week. And now they got to come back and play an even better team, maybe. So I think it's going to be a factor for both teams. And I'm starting to think that this is going to be an ugly, low-scoring game, even though the Seahawks have no freaking defense. I just kind of have a feeling that it's going to be sloppy. The execution's not going to be great. And it's going to be the under, which brings me to our last topic. Nick, take us away.
The point spread, Seattle is 3-point favorite, so the 49ers are getting 3 points. Over, under 53.
Nick, you start. Nicholas.
I'm trying to do my math in my head.
Oh, okay.
I have the 49ers winning this game outright. I believe they're going to stick to what they've been doing despite all the injuries, control the time of possession, which really what it boils down to for me, limiting Russell Wilson's opportunities. The 49ers not only cover, they win this game 28-24, which is a total of 52, and that would be the under. So that's my prediction right there.
I like the 49ers to win the game outright as well. I also like the under. Early in the year, the overs were hitting like crazy. And one of the reasons for that is refs were not calling holding penalties. I mean, I think it took the Patriots like 5 or 6 weeks to get a holding penalty. If you look closely at the stats, the penalties are starting to come up. I've got a bit of a conspiracy theory. I think maybe the NFL told the officials there was no preseason. Let's decrease the penalties a little tiny bit early on so we have good-looking games. Let's keep the fans' attention in this crazy year with no fans in the stadium. And I think we're starting to go back to normal, and we're going to start seeing a lot more of these unders start to hit. And this is one of the higher totals of the week. I like the under here a lot.
That was an A+ answer, by the way. I'm learning so much about sports gambling from Tony. Really. Really. Seriously. Nice.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So
you better step this. You better have a really good answer right now.
No, you guys always make me go after Tony. You know how hard that is, and then we got Mav with his stats as well. I'm in the toughest.
It's an all-star team
right here.
You are a 4-time Pro Bowler, so you hold your own.
So I got the Niners winning outright as well.
Sorry, keep going. I'm sorry.
Dang. I know he's my friend, but the disrespect.
He had 2 picks last week. Are you kidding? He's vindicated. Go ahead.
All right, so I got the 49ers winning outright as well. I see everyone's been asking me, hey, Leo, do you think they're going to win? I don't know if they're going to win, but I think they should win, so I'm going to choose them to win. And I got them winning about 2 points. What was the over-under again?
53.
53. Okay, so I have the under as well. In a wild score, I'm not going to go with the generic score. 25-23 49ers in this one.
Before I start off, to answer the earlier question, that 2012 game was a Sunday night football game. And if you remember Cam Chancellor took Vernon Davis out really early on that big hit. And they were without him. Not saying that's an excuse for why they lost by 20 plus, but still, I just remembered that and I wanted to throw that out there for people to reminisce. But you asked me for my score twice yesterday, Grant, and I said it and I don't remember what I said. So I'm going to go with 27-24. I think that's what it was.
I did ask you twice.
I think it was 27-24, and that's what I'm going to go with. I think the 49ers are going to win. I think they control the line. I think JaMychal Hasty gets 18 touches, and I think there's a possible defensive touchdown. We haven't seen that in a while, but against the Seahawks we have.
All right. So I said under. I think I have to stick with. I said that 3 minutes ago, so I probably shouldn't flip flop within 5 minutes. I'm going to say under. I'm going to say Niners 24, Seahawks 23. I think it's going to be tough to keep the Seahawks down on offense. I mean, you can do everything right, and they're still going to get to 20 points. But and I think that Pete Carroll's going to do the best job possible with what he's got. But I think the Niners win this one. I think they force Russell Wilson into a few picks, and I think they sack him a few times. I think they take what Vance Joseph did in overtime and build an entire game plan around it and really harass the pass protection or lack thereof of the Seahawks. So I'm picking the Niners.
One thing we didn't mention that I think we should is there's no fans in the stadium. And that's a big difference between that 2012 season. If they are tired and they're coming into that stadium with all those fans screaming, that's not going to be the case this year. And that's a huge thing in the Niners' favor.
It seems like they're better on the road than the Niners are better on the road than at home too. We've seen that, right? They stink at home. What?
You said 24-23?
I did.
So you just price of right me?
What were you?
25-23.
How did you pick 25, dude? When do they ever?
It's always a random number. It's a random number. It happens all the time. All the time.
It does.
I
like that.
Don't ask me how. Don't ask me how they're going to get 25, but
2-point conversion.
I did price it.
You
have to hit it exactly to get credit. Otherwise, it's all me. I was the one.
Hey,
that's the key to sports gambling. I learned that from Tony.
if the Rams didn't miss that extra point, I would have got that score right. You guys were making fun of me for saying 18. They would have gone for 2. And so I respect to the 25.
Okay, fair enough. All right, I like that. Next week, I'm picking the Niners to score 19. No, I'm making them to score 4 points. 4 points.
Get me a scoregami.
Oh,
Scoregamis.
All right, guys. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for watching. I don't know what the hell's going on in the comment section. I got to pay someone to like moderate this because you guys have lost your privileges. I mean, I gave you guys a little bit of freedom and look what you did with it. Go have a wonderful weekend. What's up?
Your buddy Sean did say that because he heard my comment about that I'm in the hot corner between these two. He said that I'm in the NFC West of journalism.
That's right.
I'll take it.
That's right. But even if you're in last place, that makes you the 49ers, right? It's not bad. And I'm not saying you're in last place. We all know Mavericks in last place.
Yeah. Hey, Mav, what's the score again? What's your score?
24.
Okay.
Maverick has really grown on this show. When he came on a few months ago, he was very serious. And now he's got this sarcasm that I freaking love. I love it.
Alarms going off, everything.
Very sly sarcasm. He's got a little Joe Staley humor going on. I like that.
Nick Mullins a bit.
Yeah. And over you got Nick Newman over here who's just fired up. He's a little Joe Shasky. I love it. I love it. And then Tony who's like educating all of us. I feel like I should be betting sports.
Well, let me tell you, if you don't mind, real quick, my favorite prop bet for next week and see what you guys think.
Let's get
Will
into it.
the game go to overtime? Yes or no? Yes, I found 11-1 odds.
Oh!
Now the game has gone to overtime 2 of the last 3 times they played, and the third time that wasn't overtime was the Greenlaw game, which was obviously really close and not in overtime. So I love those odds. Throw some pizza money on it, 11-1. I think that's a pretty sweet deal for sure. And I'll be writing more about that prop bet and other prop bets in my column that comes out tomorrow.
I love the pizza bet section of your prop bet article. I love that. I love the concept of that because honestly, I'm Jewish and I try not to be stereotypical, but I freaking hate losing money. And the idea of gambling just doesn't appeal to me because I know I'm going to lose. And I know the feeling of losing the money is just going to be just heart-wrenching. So the idea of only losing a little pizza money makes me almost want to dabble, but I'm not there yet. I'm still holding on to my
So there's pizza money and then there's Starbucks money. That's like even a little bit less. That's like, you might put a futures bet on a $10, $5 bet for a team to win the Super Bowl. That's Starbucks money and there's pizza money.
See, to me, that sounds like a gateway drug, though. It's like, it's cool. Just have one hit. It's all good, dude. Don't worry about it. I don't know. All right. I got to go pick up my wife. I got to go do my thing. Have a great weekend. All of you. We'll talk soon.